Good morning. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Danie, Laurel.
And I'm just Delos Santos. It's the start of a new trading day, but first, let's go straight to our top story. Typhoon Ulysses battered the country on Thursday, inundating parts of Metro Manila and neighboring province of Rizal. In Marikina, water level at the Marikina River rose to as high as 22 meters. This was higher than the 21.5 meter level recorded in September 2009 when Typhoon Ondoy deluged Metro Manila. The water level has gone down to 14.6 meters as of 5 a.m. today, still above the normal level of 12 to 14 meters. Over 40,000 homes were submerged in Marikina and Rizal, while thousands of residents were stranded on rooftops. The hashtag RescuePH trended on social media, with trapped residents begging for help. President Duterte addressed the nation on Thursday, assuring affected residents that help was on the way. He said the government will not leave anybody behind. The NDRRMC has yet to issue figures on the damage caused and residents affected by the typhoon. Typhoon Ulysses also toppled power lines, leaving millions of households without power as of Thursday afternoon. Now, to get more details as to how badly Typhoon Ulysses damaged power supply, we have Meralco spokesperson Joe Zaldarriaga. Good morning, sir. Nice to have you here with us on the show, sir.
Good morning, Jess, and it's a pleasure to be in your program.
All right, sir. Latest update as of 8 p.m. last night. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have 78,000 customers that are still without power from the 2.95 million pesos. People rather, customers that were affected. How has the situation improved now? How many more to go?
We started yesterday at around 5 a.m. with 3.8 million customers without electricity. We are now down to 500,000, Jess. So in terms of percentage, this is 7.4% of our total customers, numbering 7 million. The 3.8 million, we were able to improve that as the hours passed by yesterday. And as of 6 this morning, as I mentioned, we are now down to 500,000 customers. So we hope to further improve on this as the hours go by, and hopefully by tomorrow we will have a better picture in terms of.
Okay, so around 500,000 customers more that are still affected. Do we have an idea as to where these customer locations are? Most of them, at least, as to which areas they are concentrated. So, what are the most affected areas? And at the same time, can you give us a picture on what particular cities or areas are hardest to reach at this point?
At this point, yes, majority is in the province of Bulacan. That's 300,000 customers that are still affected. Metro Manila, from a high of almost 2 million, we're now down to around 88,000. So that's a very significant improvement. Cavite is at 67,000 customers. Rizal is 43,000. Laguna, Quezon, Batangas, and Pampanga have significantly improved in terms of restoration efforts.
Okay, that's very surprising because normally you would hear in the news concentration of the damage would be in the likes of Marikina and even some parts of Rizal as well. But it's surprising as well, like what you mentioned, there are over 300,000 customers still in Bulacan that have yet to be, for their powers to yet still be restored. Why is that, sir?
Well, the bulk of the trouble in our facilities actually transpired in Bulacan and Metro Manila. In the province of Rizal and in Marikina, it's more of the flooding that is posing a big problem to us. So what we're doing right now is we're monitoring the situation, actual situation on the ground. And as soon as the flood water subsides, then we can already start conducting the repair works on our damaged facilities, which includes clearing operations as well.
Well, what normally, sir, are the holdups here when it comes to power restoration? What would be the biggest challenge, at least for your servicemen, to actually fully restore services in these affected areas?
Well, it's really just the volume of repair that they have to undertake, and of course the debris and the facilities that we have to one by one ensure that we will be able to repair at the soonest possible time.
Do you already have an estimate, sir, of the overall damage from the three typhoons that actually passed through Luzon here, especially service areas? I'm talking about Quintaroli and Ulysses.
At this point, Jess, we are just zeroing in on the restoration efforts. Eventually, we will come up with an assessment on the actual damage to our facilities. But at this point, we are concentrating all our efforts in the restoration of our damaged facilities and restoring power back to our customers.
Okay, I don't know if you already have the data on this one, but how would you compare the extent of the interruption in power services during Ondoy versus now you have Ulysses?
That's a very good question. Yes, actually, the impact of this typhoon of Ulysses is almost similar to that of Ondoy, past howlers like Rosing, Milenio, and the other strong um, typhoons that hit the Meralco franchise area. I would probably lump them up all together, but the difference is that in terms of the restoration efforts, I think we were pretty quick considering the impact of the typhoon on our franchise area. So we're just down to around, as I mentioned,
Mhm.
7.4%. And we see further improvements as the day goes by.
And lastly, sir, do we have a timeline as to when you at least target to restore 100% of the power services in your franchise areas?
I think give or take 3 to 4 days, yes. Hopefully by that time we will be able to return back to normal.
All right, thank you very much for your time. Again, Meralco spokesperson Joe Zaldarriaga. All right, Dan, just when markets had that surge of nature's reminds that many things are that storm hitting trading sentiment other than.
All right, Jess, but I think the storm is also hitting our connection right now. You seem to be a bit choppy there, but as expected and as you mentioned, the opening here is
Right.
significantly in the red. You can see with my terminal here that we're already down by 1.3%. We were down by close to 1.5% just in the first couple of minutes of trade. Now, just to recall, yesterday, along with the rest of the government offices, along with the schools shut down, you've also got stock trading actually closed yesterday, and now that has resumed. But the foreign exchange and bond markets are still shut as of the moment. The central bank, however, has resumed operations as normal. Now, as you mentioned, stocks were already expected to be dropping this morning, and this comes after, and you can see here on my chart, a major run up crossing above the 7,000 line, even as we had a little bit of a pullback on Wednesday's session. We were actually down by 0.15%, but we still closed above 7,000, yes, on the last day of trade. And the day prior, that had soared by 5.2%. So on Tuesday, we reached the highest close since February, and we had a 7-day rally of up 13%. We were trading at 19.2 times 12-month forward estimates, the highest since 2018, and also higher than the 5-year moving day average. So another thing that happened, however, is that our volatility for the past 10 days was really climbing, the highest since June. And another thing, where overseas foreign investors were buying into the markets. Finally, we actually saw $41 million of equities plowing in on Thursday. Now, again, diversified securities had called this ahead of even that storm with the markets overbought. After that big run up, we may continue to see profit taking. And this, according to Luis Lumlingan, today investors are already going to be gauging how much damage the typhoon left, specifically in the Philippines. As of the moment, we don't have any figures or estimates yet to be reporting here, and investors are really waiting in on that, Jess. So just a quick peek at our movers here. and which ones are bucking that downtrend. You're going to be seeing AGI still up by 2.6%. That's together with Globe and LTG Group here staging the best gains. But you're going to be seeing the Ayala stocks like BPI down by 3.1%, and Ayala Corporation leading those declines down by 2.4%. Jess.
All right, just when we thought that we'd actually work on those gains at pre-pandemic levels, but then while the storm raged on yesterday, one of our biggest conglomerates made some big announcements. Tell us more.
Yes, exactly. So I'm going to pull out for you the chart of Ayala, and you'll also be seeing rolling on your screens here Ayala Corporation's third quarter earnings that fell 59% year on year as the pandemic, of course, hit all of their business, or most at least of their business units. That's to the tune of 3.4 billion pesos for the conglomerate in the third quarter. Now, recall that we've already reported several of these earnings here. So, some of this was already to be expected. You've got Ayala Land. They had already reported prior, down 77%. BPI, for instance, down 34%. Globe, down 22%. Manila Water, down 24%. And AC Industrial still in the red. That's at a net loss of 224 million pesos. The only bright spot is actually AC Energy, and we've got more news on that later on. That was up by more than 100%, basically doubling their income since last year's same period. Now, that brings the net income of Ayala Corp for the 9 months at 11.4 billion pesos. But despite, of course, this third quarter decline year on year, what they're saying is it was significantly better than the second quarter. It was actually more than double the second quarter's 1.3 billion pesos. But you can see the markets digesting that news. Ayala heavily hit here, down by 3.5%, as the rest of their units are also suffering some losses here. Ayala Land down by 2.2%. But let's take a quick peek at what I mentioned was the bright spot here in terms of their earnings. That is AC Energy. As I mentioned, they're actually up by more than double in the third quarter, but they're right now at a trading halt on the back of news that their board has approved the proposal of Singapore-based GIC's affiliate called Aran Investments. That affiliate will be investing around 20 billion pesos in AC Energy. That's going to be a 17.5% ownership stake. So very interesting development there. And that will be at 2 pesos and 97 centavos per share. Now, just to show you here, the actual previous price on November 11 was actually 4 pesos and 33 centavos. And let's see how this stock will be moving after the trading halt. We still don't have any details on when this trading halt will be lifted. But again, a new owner here for AC Energy, Singapore-based GIC coming into the play. Now, another one that I want to be watching out for are the water concessionaires, and a lot of news on that. Maynilad, for example, has already mentioned that they will be having some disruptions in terms of water supplies. Of course, the dam levels are murky right now, and there's a lot of things that need to be cleared when it comes to the water issue. But you've also got Manila Water, which is of course an affiliate of Ayala Corporation, saying that their net income sank 24% year on year to 3.2 billion pesos. They said that the pandemic had a significant impact on the customer mix. Specifically, the volume shifted now in favor of residential segments, of course, as the businesses and offices started shutting down. But another big development when it comes to the water companies, take a look at Manila Water right now. It's up by 2.6%. This on the back that on news that the government will now be proposing a new agreement with both Manila Water and Maynilad Water that will allow the state to have a say in the rate setting. This is according to Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, and President Duterte has actually approved the recommendations of this panel. So to speak, this new pact will remove the, quote, onerous provisions of the current contract and make the arrangement more equitable. So again, Manila Water, they're trading, bucking that sell-off of the rest of Ayala companies. Just now, moving on from the Ayala Group over into the banking space, you've got the IMF flagging the country's bank secrecy law and how that is actually limiting the central bank's oversight function. Why is that?
Okay, Dan, before I answer that question, we have a bit of a breaking news here coming from Marikina. You have Marikina City local government already declaring a state of calamity in the city. You have Mayor MARCY TEODORO reporting that 3 casualties have been recorded in the city. You have one from Malanday and two are from Provident Village in Marikina. Recall, of course, you have a lot of residents saying, the aftermath of Typhoon Ulysses was really reminiscent of how Ondoy was back in 2009. So again, just to repeat it, a state of calamity has been declared over Marikina City with 3 casualties recorded so far. Now, moving on, just to answer a question regarding the bank secrecy law here, you have the IMF, like what you mentioned, flagging the country's bank secrecy law, saying that the BSP should actually have unimpaired access to banks' deposit and other data. According to them, the BSP should have an ability to actually employ and share depositor information for any prudential purpose. That includes funding concentrations, intergroup dependencies, cash flow analysis, and related party transactions and anti-money laundering analyses as well. According to the IMF as well, the BSP needs to beef up its power to actually gauge the impact of mixed conglomerate structures on banks deemed too big to fail. The BSP relies heavily on public information to assess risks. That's according to the BSP and that's according to the IMF. And according to them as well, the BSP does not have power to actually supervise a bank's parent or the wider group, or even review the conglomerate's activities and how it actually may impact the bank unit as well. Now, regarding Republic Act 11211, or the new Central Bank Act, that gives the BSP actually additional power to obtain data relating to parent and affiliates, but it's only for statistical and policy development purposes. Now, according to the IMF, that's not going to be enough. There actually should be policies to allow the BSP to actually assess potential negative impact of the company's activities to the banking group. And according to them as well, the BSP is impaired from protecting the bank from the actions of parent companies and affiliates. Also, they are saying that the BSP should actually have an oversight of ultimate beneficial ownership of banks. They should be able to assess resolvability of banks, especially DSIBs, and support orderly resolution of a problem bank, including preparedness for effectively dealing with a major bank failure.
Okay, just daming ganap there. So we'll be
Yes.
of course, keeping our eyes on the state of calamity over in Marikina City, and even these issues when it comes to central bank oversight. And one key issue there is this possibility that a political appointee would be a member of the monetary board. Is that a point of concern for the IMF?
Okay, I think I'm having a bit of a problem with my connection here, Dan, but I do heard your question here. Yeah, they are having problems, at least flagging the appointment of actually a cabinet member to the monetary board. Now, recall that under the new Central Bank Act, a cabinet appointee, a cabinet member should be a part of the monetary board, and the IMF is flagging that. They are saying that gives rise to concern that the operational independence of the BSP is already compromised. Other than that, they also want a prompt corrective action here. That is something that the BSP should actually develop to ensure bank failures are resolved promptly. They are proposing a framework to actually involve transition procedures of the problematic banks with the Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation to actually cut losses. Now, recall that there are bills in Congress to actually reinstate Presidential Decree 1792. Now, that is going to give the BSP mandate to examine bank deposits under reasonable grounds, such as fraud, serious irregularities, or unlawful activities. So let's see how that is at least going to improve the outlook on how the BSP is actually overseeing the financial sector.
Okay, so a lot of things going on here as the country, of course, tries and recovers from the rage of Typhoon Ulysses. Okay, so we'll be taking a quick gap. Stay with us. Business World Live will return.
And you're back here on Business World Live here on One News. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Telecommunication companies have been instructed to fast-track the restoration of their services in areas that were badly hit by Typhoon Ulysses. The National Telecommunications Commission also ordered telcos to provide a free call and phone charging stations in strategic areas affected by the typhoon. They must also provide updates to the Commission on every 6 hours of their restoration activities. Both PLDT Smart and Globe have closed some of their stores in Luzon as safety precaution against Typhoon Ulysses. Globe said its network remains stable, although some major fiber cuts have been reported in select areas in Luzon. PLDT Smart said they are ready to provide free call, Wi-Fi, and charging services in critical areas once it is safe to do so.
Nomura is expecting this year's GDP to contract by 9.8%. That's as calamities caused more damage to an economy already heavily battered by the pandemic. Now, this is Nomura's latest estimate, which was issued just after the release of the third quarter GDP data. And this is a downgrade from the initial projection of negative 6.6%. Now, aside from the impact of the recent typhoons, the market research group noted that a lack of additional fiscal support will likely weigh on private sector spending and will be a significant drag to economic recovery. Bayanihan 2 law, Nomura says, is unlikely to significantly raise fiscal expenditures and support a rebound in public construction activity. Nomura also does not expect the government to consider further rounds of fiscal packages. That's as it is currently focused on passing the 2021 budget and the CREATE bill. Now, due to relatively small fiscal measures and a likely slow economic recovery, Nomura is also expecting a 50 basis point cut from the Bangko Sentral in the fourth quarter. Guys, what a roller coaster of a week it has been, from the highs of the vaccine lows to the hopes to the lows of Ulysses' destruction. What is the base case scenario for the economy? Here to help us reassess, we have with us Unionbank's Chief Economist, Carlo Asuncion. Good morning, Carlo, and welcome.
Hi, Danie. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Carlo, I hate to be, the person that has to ask the question, what is the damage here looking like? What is it? Of course, the only thing that we have to compare it with are the previous typhoons and the destruction of those, which were very, very difficult for the economy. How is this compared to Ondoy? This is something we definitely did not need to happen at this point in time.
Yeah, well, absent of official numbers, no, we're actually looking at, well, first of all, it's not Yolanda, it's not Ondoy. I feel like it's not that much of the same impact because even right now, I just heard that MARIKINA just declared a state of calamity. So if you remember, I think the impact on Manila was a lot larger, but still we haven't heard any official numbers yet, but initial look is that it's not Yolanda, it's not like Ondoy in terms of its impact. Maybe its optics are, but we still have yet to see. But of course, we see a probable impact on food prices. So I think that's the initial assessment that we are looking at.
Okay, big question here. Can the government afford this? Is there a contingency plan here? And will this, even if you say that perhaps the direct impact is not as big as Typhoon, Ondoy, which was 11 billion pesos, if I'm not mistaken, will there be compounded effects because of the COVID crisis?
Well, definitely. When I was looking just at the reports yesterday, people going into evacuation centers. The first thing that I was looking at, they're wearing masks. So, of course, it compounds we're in a pandemic. It compounds the possibility of increasing infections, of course, because people are gathering together. No, so that's the thing that we're looking at as well. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of like, for example, just declaring I think this is the second time that they'll be declaring a state of calamity. If that, I don't know if that's allowed. No, state of calamity from the pandemic, state of calamity from this one. So I know that different areas have done that, but of course, there's even talk of Bayanihan 3 right there. I know that this
Okay.
this quarter you have Bayanihan 2 still in effect, so it still has some caution that it provides. Yeah, but down the road, we still have to assess that and whether we lend credence to a Bayanihan 3, for example.
Okay, let's talk about this happening just as the third quarter GDP print was significantly worse than most economists had predicted. But nevertheless, you're talking off cam, still better quarter on quarter. Now with this situation, do you have, at least initial reassessment of the numbers that you were looking at right after this GDP print came out?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, it was 8% quarter and quarter better, so it's positive. So, but definitely, this one has to be something to look into. But looking at just even the impact, the full impact, we well, in terms of the storms went through Bicol, went through here, but not really on, especially Luzon. When you're talking about Luzon, not really on the food supply areas, well, like Nueva Ecija or Central Luzon. So of course there will be some, as I mentioned already, there will be some uptrend right there on food prices, but we still have our food intact. I'd say from Luzon, even Visayas and Mindanao. So yeah, I think that's where it is. No, so but definitely, as mentioned, we will look into some potential slight impact on fourth quarter GDP for this one.
Carlo, are you
On the other side,
yes, assuming that the budget gets passed on time for 2021 and there are no delays, is this 4.5 trillion peso budget enough to spur capital formation? We had just reported that, even Nomura and a lot of other analysts are saying that it's simply not enough for a recovery.
well, definitely they have to pass it on time, and we've flagged this as one of the upsides for 2021 GDP growth. So definitely, we would want to have more because we've seen that in the last GDP print. We've seen government consumption just growing mildly. Of course, it grew a lot higher in the second quarter compared to the third quarter, probably because of some implementation problems and bottlenecks. But definitely for the next year, you would want to have more involvement, more government spending that's in there, that's slushing through the economy. So I think that's very important.
And final question, Carlo. A lot are now banking on or calling a 50 basis point cut, even 25 basis point cut from the central bank before the end of the year on the back of this GDP print. And that's after Central Bank Gov't had said, probably pause muna and wait for that to happen. Is this something that is now imminent?
Yeah, well, we're still holding on to that because our call is BSP may actually prioritize the third quarter sequential gains. Another one would be, of course, the prevailing subdued credit demand. We'll take that into account. Excess liquidity, I think that's also a huge consideration, considering that there's just a lot of money coming around. Fixed income, yung kita medyo maliit yan. No, but it's, I think the best, I think was mentioned about our cuts. I think that would be on the table, but we are definitely still looking at probably a hold, because you have to consider also a lot of the other factors, like for example the fourth quarter funding backstop by the BSP to the national government. So that's pretty much where we're at. We're looking at a potential hold by until the end of this year. So.
Okay, so as that was of course Carlo Asuncion, Chief Economist of Unionbank. Carlo, unfortunately, I'm going to have to break this news. We've now got a count of 12 dead from Typhoon Ulysses. This is, of course, developing stories. We'll be having more on that when we return. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Carlo. And that's a first look into the business day. Today is November 13. I'm Danie Laurel.
Catch us again Monday next week at 9:30 a.m. I'm Jess Delos Santos. We are One News. Have a safe weekend.